Hi everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and today I'm going to show you how to make this first row of triangles on this Tunisian entrelac crocheted cowl. I have here the foundation row, or the bottom edging, which is basically just a long row of single crochets. Now I've recommended foundation single crochets in the pattern because foundation single crochets are stretchier and it's also easy to adjust. You can add or remove stitches at the end of this row very easily, whereas if you had a chain, it's not quite as easy. So let me show you how to do one foundation single crochet. I'm zooming in a bit. All right, so with a foundation single crochet, what you're doing is you're adding the chain at the same time as you're doing the stitch. So we're going to put our hook into the bottom, into that chain of the last stitch. Do you see this last stitch here? This is the top of it here. This is the post of the stitch, and then this is the base, the foundation chain that it's worked into. So we're going to go into that base, and we're going to draw up a loop just like we would for a normal single crochet. But before we finish our stitch, we're first going to chain one. We're going to make that chain. So we just pulled it through one loop, and that made the bottom, that made the foundation chain. Now we can finish our stitch, and what we've done is we've made a foundation chain and another single crochet stitch. And that's how foundation single crochet works. So you can see I could extend this as much as I wanted to, or I could make it shorter very easily by ripping some out. It's a very easy stitch to work with. So let's take a look at what this whole edging row looks like. I'm pulling out my loop a little bit just so I can show you. This is my row of 99 single crochet. And it does have to be a multiple of 9 for the pattern, but you can make it shorter or longer if you want to. And when you fold it in half, that is going to be the finished length of the cowl. So if you can fold it in half and take a look, you could even try it on, see if it fits well. If it doesn't, feel free to adjust, add or subtract 9 stitches. And this way you can also work with pretty much any kind of yarn you want to as well. I know the pattern is written for DK weight. If you wanted to make it in worsted weight, you would get a taller cowl, but you could adjust the length of it very easily by changing your foundation. If you were doing the chains, if you were going to do 100 chains and then come back and do 99 stitches, you can also leave yourself some room to adjust on that. What you do is instead of doing 100 chains, do maybe 120 chains, and then come back and do your first 99 stitches. And if you like that width, then just rip out the rest of the chains you didn't use. If you want more, then you have room to add more because you have those extra chains. So that's a possibility too. Okay, so once you have this first row done, what we're going to do is join it. And now some of you are asking me, well, if I did a chain, then couldn't I join the chain in the round? Yes, you could join the chain, but it's really hard to see with a chain whether you're twisting it or not. When you work with a foundation row, whether it's just regular single crochet or foundation single crochet, it is much easier to see that you're keeping your work straight and that you're not twisting it. You don't want it to go like this at all. You want it to be nice and straight the whole way across. This is the top of my stitch, so I want to make sure that I keep the top of my stitch on top as I go all the way across here. Get back to the other side. And there's my start. You can see there's the tail at the bottom, so I know this is the top and I haven't twisted anything. And now I can join right here with a slip stitch. Very important not to twist, because if you twist, you can't undo it later. You'd have to start over at the join. So don't twist, just join there. And now later on when we sew in the tails, we can use this little tail to sew this little gap completely closed here. If you want, you can stick your hook in here and pull the tail through, and that should seal it up for right now. There we go. And that's what it'll end up looking like. So again, you can try it on. This is going to be your cowl. Now we're just going to make it taller. Now we're ready to start the Tunisian entrelac portion of the cowl. We have a foundation and we're going to build some triangles up off of this foundation. So normally to start our triangles, the first thing we would do would be to slip stitch into the first stitch, but we already did that when we joined. So skip over that first stitch and go into the next stitch. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop in this stitch. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through just one of those loops, and that creates a vertical bar. The left leg of this stitch that we made, see how it's kind of twisted that way? That left leg is going to be our first vertical bar. Okay? Now yarn over and pull through both loops, and that's going to give us the top of the stitch. So that's our first row of entrelac. Now let's make the next row. What we've got to do is go into that vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. Now we're going to go into the next stitch on the foundation and pull up a loop in that stitch. Whoops, sorry. There we go. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. And again, yarn over and pull through just one loop. That's what gives us the extra stitch. That's how we're increasing every time. Okay? And then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2 to continue across the row. Now you can see this bar is on top of this bar that we made from last time, and then we've got another new stitch here, so we've added one more stitch. And we're going to continue across like that, adding 1 stitch every time. So now we yarn over and pull up a loop in this first bar, and then we go into the new stitch and pull up a loop there. Okay, that's 3, and then we add 1 more by going into the next stitch from the foundation, and now we have 4. Yarn over and pull through just 1 to make our increase, and then yarn over and pull through 2 all the way across. And now you can see we have the top of the stitch and we have 1, 2, 3 vertical bars to work into. So keep going like that. Pull up a loop, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, and then go into the next stitch. And every time we do this, we should have 1 more loop on our hook when we're done. So yarn over, pull through 1, and then 2, 2, 2, 2. And we're going to keep doing this until we have 9 loops on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then into here, next stitch, 6, pull through 1, pull through 2, all the way across. And this time we should have 7. There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pull through 1. Whoop, just 1. And then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2, all the way across. This one should be 8. And notice if you're counting as I'm going, I'm pulling up 7 loops, but the loop that's already on my hook is the 8th one. So now I have 8 loops on my hook. And again, I go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And this should be our last row for this triangle. Let's check. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. We have 9 loops on our hook. Perfect. So one, oh, not quite perfect. I split the yarn. There we go. Now it's perfect. So pull through 1 and then pull through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 total times, and now we have a triangle. Now we're ready to start the next triangle, but we need to get down here to do that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch in each of these vertical bars. So just not the top of the stitch, just the vertical bars. So do slip stitch in 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and then our last slip stitch is going to be in the next stitch on our row. And there we have our first triangle. Now we're ready to make another triangle in exactly the same way going across. Now I want to take a minute and show you the bottom of the round so that I can show you that we're actually using 9 stitches from our foundation for each one of these triangles. If we look here, this stitch right here, let me pull on the tail to make it tight. This stitch right here is where we did our first slip stitch. So that is stitch number 1. And there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we've slip stitched into the next stitch, so that would be 10, but that's also going to count as stitch number 1 for the next triangle, just like this slip stitch was stitch number 1 for this triangle. So it's 9 stitches per triangle, and now we're ready to start our second triangle. And it's going to be worked exactly the same way as the first one, so I'm going to go through it much faster this time. We've already got our slip stitch, so we go in the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, now we pick up a stitch in this loop, so pull up a loop in that loop, and then go into the next stitch and pull up a loop. Now we have 3, so yarn over, pull through 1, then pull through 2 and pull through 2. Now this time we have 4, so again pull through 1 and then pull through 2, 2, and 2. And we keep going till we hit 9. This should be the last row. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and one more makes 9. Now I'm going to tell you in Tunisian crochet, a lot of times this first one where you yarn over and pull through 1, a lot of times it will say yarn over, pull through 1, but in just as many patterns, it's going to say chain 1, because in all of crochet, when you yarn over and pull through 1 loop on your hook, that's the definition of a chain. It doesn't matter that you have a bunch of other loops on your hook. You can keep chaining with this loop as much as you want, and you're still making a chain. So if you ever see chain 1 in a Tunisian pattern, they're still talking about the same thing as a normal chain, which is yarn over and pull through 1 loop on your hook. And now we go through 2, 2, 2, all the way across until we finish the row. And that's our second triangle, so we got a slip stitch back down. So slip stitch in each one of these loops. and then slip stitch in the foundation again. So there's my first 2 triangles, and I'm just going to keep going around making more triangles, and for every 9 stitches we did, we'll have 1 more triangle. When I get to the last one, I'm going to end up slip stitching back into the same stitch that we started in. So let me get all the way around, and then I'll show you that to finish off the round. I finished my last triangle, and I've slip stitched all the way down. Now I just need to do that one last slip stitch that puts me down at the foundation row again. But there's no stitches left. Well, if you look really closely right here, this stitch right here, that's where we did our very first slip stitch into. See, there's our slip stitch, and this is where we slip stitched into. So we're going to go back into that very first stitch, the same one we started with, and work our slip stitch into that. And that will complete our round. Now I'm done with orange for a little bit, so I'm actually going to cut that and leave a tail to sew in. And now I can just fasten that off, and I've got my first row done. First round. So that's the first section of our cowl. We have triangles going all the way around, and our next step is going to be to build diamonds into the middle of these triangles. So check back with our next video to see how to do that. It should be posted in about a week from when this one is posted. But for now, that is how you do the first section. Thanks for watching.